Every once in a while, I think that there is a column written that coincides perfectly with the country. It's saying WTF. And I think that's what we saw today and with Noah Rothman's awesome Commentary Magazine column, The Attack on Things at Work. If you guys probably know Noah's work. I'm always citing Commentary Magazine and the podcast, which is, to me, the most crucial daily podcast there is. We've gone legit, Noah, by the way. Alice and I are now officially digital subscribers. It's long enough here, living off of the benefit of your hard work. Thanks so much for joining us.
That's huge. Thank you, Tom, so much for having me and for that very generous introduction. I sincerely appreciate it.
Well, how did this happen now where just 3 days ago, you and I could cook on gas-powered stoves just fine. Suddenly now, we're urged not to. And then we also find, that as part of this campaign, movement, that not only can't we cook on that anymore, it's bad for the environment, but it's killing us. How did this all suddenly come together?
Well, I would be lying if I said I knew the right answer to that question. It's not as though this came from nowhere. People who've been paying attention to this, me especially, in part because I'm obsessed with the busybody meddling impulse on the part of the social engineers on the left. But in blue states in America, in places like California and New York, there is a regulatory effort, undemocratic effort, to anathematize natural gas-powered heaters, furnaces, and stoves.
Massachusetts too. They've tried to do the gas hookup thing here, and it's definitely on the docket again. Now we have a Democrat governor again.
I completely believe that, and you have to be paying attention to it because there's this fun phenomenon that happens on the left where if you notice these sort of things and you're critical of them, you get laughed out of the room. This is the sort of thing that is for the consumption of people who are uncritical of it entirely. And then they'll say it's not happening. But then when you demonstrate that it is happening, it's good that it's actually happening. And that's what we saw now. So we have this movement on the part of states. Coincidentally, just a miraculous coincidence, it turns out that some of these studies that have been demonstrating that the combustion of hydrocarbons is bad for the environment in your little gas range in your house. It's also really bad for your health. And that's what the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission came out with this month. They said, based on one study that I'm aware of, perhaps two, that they've demonstrated that these products produce unsafe levels of nitrogen dioxide, carbon dioxide, particulate in the atmosphere, even benzene, the exposure to which is unsafe at any levels. And then so the commission is saying, well, we're going to take public comment on whether or not to prohibit the use of these products in the future. Richard Trumka, who's a commissioner on this commission, said rather bluntly that, quote, products that can't be made safe can be banned. Which is an interesting standard that cannot become a standard. If it did become a standard, it would be applicable to just about everything. But all of a sudden, Tom, I'm sorry, just briefly to Tom's point that this talking point came together out of the blue, and it's shocking. What's really interesting, and I don't understand quite how this phenomenon works just yet, because it's unique and new, is that everybody sort of freelances their own talking points around what they think to be their marching orders. They don't have any evidence to suggest, as CNN's Bill Weir said today on air, that these products are as bad as if you were idling a car in your kitchen. That's madness. It's insanity. It's flatly untrue. But it's the sort of thing that they felt like they had to say. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, taking on this exhausted tone that she even has to lecture you and educate you about why these things are bad for you and the environment, when she's never said anything about it.
Well, that's
in public,
what's so funny,
ever.
too, is it's like they all act like this was all something we've all known. This is really terrible for a really long time, and I can't believe. And you're like, whoa, I just heard this yesterday for the first time. Can you slow down a little bit? You're telling me this is causing 12.7% of asthma? Like, where does that come from? That's a totally absurdly specific number that I absolutely
absurdly specific
don't
number
believe.
For something that is a product in 40% of American households. You're talking about 50 million households that would have noticed this thing that we've been using for 3/4 of a century.
Well, right. And I'm not willing
shocking
to go here and I'm not going to die on the hill that I should go breathe in the fumes from the gas stove while I'm cooking or something. But like, it has a hood over it. We're not dying. Life is pretty safe. Like, it really isn't something I spend a lot of time thinking about. And this idea that all of a sudden we've all known this is this super, super concerning thing and we need to get on top of this right away, that it's like lead paint or secondhand smoke all of a sudden it's so weird and surreal.
Or that there's a scientific consensus around it. They summarily handwave and dismiss peer-reviewed NIH studies that demonstrate that this thing you've been living with for 70 years actually doesn't produce measurably harmful levels of particulate. And you probably would have noticed a 12% increase in asthma in the children or in your neighborhood.
Right.
But I digress.
But and there are other regulations which I don't think come out of a huge activist progressive push for one thing or another. So there's, for instance, your gas can now. All of my gas cans I have for my lawnmower, etc., are all broken because I can't figure out how to turn this valve and that valve and that valve so that I can pour gas out of it. So it's broken, so I just spill gas all over the place. The thing at the pump, up here in the Northeast, some years you're allowed to leave the pump going at the gas station and walk away. Some years you have to stay right there. It
For a
depends.
long time in Massachusetts, we didn't have the little thing, so you couldn't
didn't
leave
have a
your
little
gas
thing
pump.
on hand lighters. The hand lighters in the 80s, you could just use a lighter, and then in the 90s, you had to have this little stopper thing, and then that went away somewhere along the lines. And with those things, I think people of all stripes said, "Oh, fine, that's just life. That's just the way it is. Whatever." But with this, like the constituency of these progressives, women of Park Slope and of West Hartford and of Cambridge, Massachusetts, are not going to get rid of their gas stoves.
Well, that's the other part of this, which I think deserves serious consideration. And I wrote about it as part of this litany of grievances that I, as a suburban male, are nursing now. The piece is called "The Attack on Things That Work." And this is of a piece with a campaign against things that work efficiently. One of the things about during the pandemic, I sort of taught myself to cook and taught myself technique because I like fine dining, but it wasn't available to me. So I taught myself things like how to saute, how to braise, how to fry, how to simmer, how to flambe, how to char, delicate vegetables, for example. The things that you can't do on an electric stove. Really can't. If you want to get something really hot really fast, if you boil or sear and that's it, electric's fine. But everything else requires an open flame and temperature management, which anybody who cooks professionally or amateurs will tell you is the competitive advantage with natural gas and natural gas ranges. And it's of a piece with a similar quality of life attack on an ethos that prevails 40 minutes outside every major metropolitan area. It is of a piece with an attack on gasoline-powered lawn equipment, which is underway in just about every county that you could say is a little blue and a little suburban. And the grievances against them are myriad. They're bad for the environment. They're bad for your health. They're bad for some are very plain about it. The people in Marin County who are saying, it's bad for the migrant workers who spit dust up into the atmosphere.
Do our landscaping for us.
But mostly it's bad for, it shatters the bucolic placidity of the spring months. It's quality of life issue. And listen, if I lived in Marin County, maybe I would feel the same way. But I don't. I live on an acre of land, and an electric blower doesn't blow the leaves off the lawn. So you need something that's a little bit more powerful. And to go after that is to go after an ethos that prevails outside of these urban metro areas. The same thing could be said for plastic straws and shopping bags, incandescent lighting, short cycle dishwashers and laundry equipment, the sort of stuff that is efficient and uses more power as a result in order to establish that efficiency and give you the time and the opportunity cost that you would otherwise lose to more work, to say nothing of the expense associated with electric-only appliances, which tends to be more than gas-powered equipment. It is all of a piece with a war against convenience in this country for aims that are very hard to pin down, sort of abstract. They have a lot to do with social justice. They have a lot to do with environmentalism. They're very speculative about their gains, but the losses are tangible and instant, and it's your quality of life.
Do you think there's part of it where last time you were here, we talked about your book, The Rise of the New Puritans. Do you think there's part of it that some people feel that they must be doing something good if they're suffering just a little bit?
Yes, I think there is something to that. Thank you very much for the plug on my book, because that actually does tie into it in a way that I hadn't thought about. But there's a measure of satisfaction that I think people who have this particular disposition derive from depriving you of things that you like. It's not just that they're suffering quietly and silently on their own and
Well, definitely not
enduring.
silently.
No, well, certainly not silent for sure, but that's not satisfying enough. It really does have to be externalized. You have to be drafted into this project. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to be satisfying at all, which is why I suppose that it's being externalized to the degree that you're going after, gasoline-powered lawn equipment in places where you have a whole lot of lawns to mow. These people will never experience that. And just like and very similar to the range issue, if you are somebody who partakes in fine dining, and you live 10 minutes away from, that experience is only a reservation away, it's not something you're ever going to experience. But for much of the country, that's not the case.
And those people will find the moral loophole to know that instead of their gas stove creating the food, the gas stove down the street is creating
at the restaurant.
The food. And that's all it takes.
Yeah, precisely. It's a meddlesome impulse, and it's very similar to the impulse that I wrote about in The Rise of the New Puritans, fighting back against progressives' war on fun, because this is, in a certain extent, an extension of that war on fun for intangible gains, and just the sacrifice that you make for it provides you with this, I suppose, this warm, fuzzy sense, A, of exclusivity, and B, of just being better than your neighbors.
So you'll accept the fact, and this is all over your book, something like the Irish American guy can't have the food truck that has Mexican food because he's stolen the, whatever, he's appropriated, whatever. So the people in the community, even though they love that truck and that guy, it's nothing personal, sir, they feel that this is some kind of moral tithing, that if they sacrifice themselves of some of the things they love, and there's some fallout, real human fallout, they're willing to look past that, that somehow they're absolved from, I don't know, having upper middle class lifestyles? Is that what it is?
That's exactly right, with the exception of the fact that I would argue that it is personal, sir, in part because it's your indelible and intractable accidents of birth that have rendered you a subversive agent here and engaged in cultural theft. It's usually also that this public punishment is meted out usually to the successful. And usually they're successful because the product they're producing is good and people like it. And that's the problem. There's a profound, I'm not sure to what extent, but a profound element of professional jealousy in a lot of these campaigns. It's not reserved for people who are producing terrible, products, mostly. Not people who are producing terrible products, adulterated products, flippantly mocking the cultures that they're, supposed to be, an homage to. It's usually reserved for people who are doing the utmost to properly represent and to produce a good product, and for people to enjoy it. That enjoyment detracts from the seriousness and sobriety that you should evince at all times and in all places, because that renders you a serious person. To deprive yourself of that sort of enjoyment, it makes you a much more serious, sober person, attuned to the world's ills in ways that your neighbors just simply aren't. That's a very satisfying thing if you believe that that's a contribution of some positive way. It's also very self-indulgent, but that's a human impulse to satisfy yourself by making yourself out to be better than your neighbors.
I don't want to force you to answer any more like psychological profile questions, but that if you want to, if these good progressives want to save their souls, then why not do it for them in and around their own lives? Why is it important for my soul to be saved that Noah Rothman can't flambe anymore?
Well, again, that just doesn't seem to satisfy the itch on the part of people who evince this particular disposition, in part because that's not a big enough contribution. And there is a logic and a rationale to that, that if you really did believe, as silly as it is, that these appliances are meaningfully contributing to the warming of the world in ways that, the combustion of hydrocarbons en masse to generate electric power is not. It's maddening, but maybe you believe that. Then you would need a collective contribution to that cause. You could swear off this all you want, and it's a drop in the bucket. So there's a rationale and a logic to it. But the moral satisfaction, the moral suasion, the moral blackmail honestly, that goes on the part of when you have these campaigns that sprout up like mushrooms only to disappear as fast. That has to be something that is collective in nature. That has to be a society-wide campaign, because to allow collective sin is to be complicit in collective sin. You can't allow your neighbor to flout these conventions such as he is, lest you become tacitly complicit in that behavior and that activity. You must be engaged and active. That is a very puritanical ethos. In a writ small, I mean, in a puritanical homogenous society, that's an achievable objective. It's certainly not in ours, but the impulse is still there, and we're witnessing it with campaigns like this.
But how can you have a community when you've got a community full of informers and spies and scolds and I don't see how there can be any cohesion if you're scared to death that your neighbor may notice that you've got a gas burning stove in your house.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, if that's your neighbor, you probably don't spend a whole ton of time with them anyway. But yes, that's certainly something that would atomize societies and reduce cohesion, social cohesion, in ways that probably break communities apart more than keep them together. Sure. So in the absence of some sort of a unifying apparatus with the compelling force of law, then yes, this is all just a social exercise, which is why they're drafting all this force with the compelling power of law, the government, states governments and federal governments, into this project. The government must be drafted into the project because that is like the church in puritanical times. It is the means by which we work out. We have a social contract, A, and B, the means we work out and adjudicate conflicts. So then there will be conflicts here. So that is the mechanism to do it, and co-opt that mechanism. You own the conflict, you own the resolution, and you make a positive contribution, a step towards the society you hope to build, which is in this case a dystopian nightmare in which everything is microwaved.
Well, and Tom and I are already like almost living there because, like I said, we're in Massachusetts, and there are even like municipalities banning gas stove hookups. A few people have mentioned a bunch of them in our live chat. There's towns that are not using just the building codes in new construction, not allowing new gas hookups in buildings, and it's funny because one of the things that fascinated me about this whole thing is Tom and I talked about this a couple days ago when the Trump comment was made, and the whole sort of conservative news cycle did their thing with the gas stoves, and then like there was this immediate walk back where they like put out this statement and we're like, we're not banning gas stoves, we never even thought of banning gas stoves, and now like
Right.
I assume
as though that wasn't a response to the reaction.
and like there's like I assume there's going to be like fact checks out now, like, did the Biden administration decide to ban gas stoves? And absolutely not. That's
right.
Crazy. Conservatives just made this up out of nowhere. But the truth is, I know I'm not making it up because towns around me are doing it. And like you kind of referenced at the beginning,
Of course.
it's like we're definitely not doing that until we are. And it's like an awesome thing that we are. And it's just like depending where in the country on the blue state curve you are, like you're just further down the path toward it. But the idea that they can go out here and say there's not a movement to do this thing that they're trying to do just boggles my mind.
It's almost literally gaslighting. If they were turning down the stuff, it would be the movie. If they were turning this thing down on you and telling you it wasn't happening, you'd be literally gaslit.
It's absolutely remarkable. His name is Noah Rothman. I'm sure you guys know about him already. Commentary Magazine associate editor, author of The Rise of the New Puritans and Unjust. Both of those are available, by the way, if you guys haven't read them. Man, Unjust really nailed Antifa in the psychosis that we dove into a couple of years ago. And we're living in the rise of the New Puritans, unfortunately. So, Noah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it as usual.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Alice, I'll never get sick of talking to Noah Rothman.
I know.
Great guy. Great guy. Such a nice guy, too. And just a great thinker. And that it's interesting because I really do think that issue, that what we're talking about with the gas stoves is an issue that it's like he talked about how it crosses several categories, but it also crosses almost all of the regulatory categories.
Right.
It's an energy issue. It's a CDC issue because
health, public health.
Exactly. It's an FDA issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's an everything issue. It's a transportation issue. It's
Mhm.
like there's nothing that it's not. It's everything infrastructure. It's everything culture and health and safety.
Right.
And like they're going to use all of this stuff. All of this stuff. And it's once they start, they never stop. So I can just imagine that this would just how much when suddenly you're hearing in the CDC all these places all these cabinet officers will be tasked with forcing, essentially kicking back product
Mm-hmm.
to the executive and now the half of the legislative branch, but kicking back product and action items. In other words, making your life more difficult in every single way. Every single way. And this idea that he had that, we're willing to have a food truck canceled here, even though we love it
Right.
for the greater good. I mean, how 2023 is that now? It's like, I'm sorry, but it goes right along with the masks, right along with everything else.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all the same impulse. It just finds new targets. And, somebody said in the chat, like, how do they all get the talking points so quickly? Like, where do they all come up with it? And it is so funny to watch it in real time because, like you said at the beginning of the call, or like you said, I guess, like 2 days ago, nobody was talking about gas stoves. And then all of a sudden, like, it became this whole thing that everybody always knew. We all knew. We all were celebrating Juneteenth. What are you talking about? Can you believe Trump put a speech on Juneteenth when we're all going to Juneteenth parties? Because we all celebrate Juneteenth. You didn't know? How did you not know there was Juneteenth? Like, it's the same weird thing.
Right.
Where it's like we're pretending we all always did something. And I find it so uncomfortable because it is like this gaslighting, am I insane or are they insane thing. So that's like why I'm glad we have the podcast and we have you guys to talk to, just so I can be like, I'm not crazy, right? Like we weren't all talking about how dangerous gas stoves are like until last week, right?
Right. So, okay, can we move a little bit to another absurdity I definitely want to get to?
Yes.
Or you want to? Okay. So I'm looking for, this morning looking for radio show topics.
Mm-hmm.
As usual, and I usually have a long, what would you call it? I usually
Intro?
have a medley of news, actualities, and items
Mm-hmm.
that I play at the beginning of every hour. That kind of wraps up what's going on in Connecticut and what I'm gonna talk about maybe. But it shows you that we're on top of things going on. That I've listened, that I've gotten to the local news. So today, one of the topics, yesterday all the pot dispensaries opened. So today, I rolled on Channel 8, News 8 in Connecticut, because they did this news wrap of the pot dispensaries being open. And it started out with this audio. This is a news facility. Remember, the pot dispensaries are a joint venture between the state of Connecticut, who's looking for revenue, and these pot businesses. Mm-hmm. Listen to this. This is the news item. Oh, sorry. Hang on. There we go.
It's hard to tell if the volume's up.
7 dispensaries switching today from medical to hybrid. Lines and celebrations at some.
I'm excited. I think it's a good thing.
I think it's great. 2 more dispensaries will follow suit soon, all expected to boost.
Now, mind you, you're hearing calypso steel drum music playing a version of La Cucaracha.
Is that representative of who's going to be smoking or having edibles?
I would say that I don't know if that's okay by the rules that the left has set. But also, and there's also graphics happening, animations of pot leaves sweeping across the screen. This is by News 8.
Meanwhile, you on the radio
are in the middle of a conga line. The reporters are in a conga line taking hits off bongs, essentially.
Yeah, it's very odd. And meanwhile, on the radio, are you still not allowed to you're not allowed to do anything to promote anything because
I'm not
the
allowed
FCC.
Right.
You're not you're barely allowed to mention that marijuana exists on the radio.
Although they have the FCC too.
I know. So why are they allowed to do that is what I'm wondering. Maybe the radio has different rules. I don't get it. But yeah, it's super weird. Would you be allowed to do that segment with that music like that?
No, and celebrate it? No.
Don't you think your program director would be knocking on the door?
Yes, but listen to this. Listen how loud the music is.
boost the economy.
We expect more than 10,000 new jobs to be created in this industry. We're also hoping to recapture some of the tax revenue that is currently going to Massachusetts and New York.
That is incredible. That's the media. That's the media who's supposed to be scrutinizing the powerful here, afflicting the powerful. Instead, they're partying with them. It's remarkable to me that this is really what happens. And you know how that last woman you heard was the lieutenant governor. You know that they are thrilled. It's probably a really fun festival of the bunch of festivals that they've invited all of the media to.
Mm-hmm.
They're the communications staffer for the lieutenant governor, and the governor, I'm sure, was at another one. Told the news people, we're doing positive coverage of the openings of the pot shops. You guys are welcome down with cameras. You can have access to everybody. You can have the lieutenant governor and the governor, and it's going to be positive. It's a positive story. Back when it was the Herald,
Mm-hmm.
if our reporters got invites to events like that,
Yeah.
they would go there and immediately put the screws to the
Be
to the
looking for
lieutenant governor.
some kind of angle
Exactly.
to get a story out of it.
And if it had something to do with marijuana, it would have been about, like, what if kids take the gummies, or how are these people through social justice being vetted for these loans that they're getting, or how do you handle the cat? But it also would be an opportunity for reporters to talk about something totally different, like injection sites, or something in the budget, or a scandal. You'd use that opportunity. But these reporters got an invite to a party, and they partied.
Yeah.
And they asked about the party, and that was it.
Wow, that's great.
It's remarkable because, and they've got, back at the studio, the guys in the edit bay adding effects. They had the graphics people come in for visual effects, and somebody do the sound to lay the bed for calypso music. It's
so many bad choices were made to make that segment. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible.
It's offensive to a lot of people.
All right. What's next, Alice?
What's next? I don't know. I was having so much fun today online because, I mean, obviously it's a bad situation for everyone who's trapped in airports.
Yes.
But Mayor Pete has struck again with his incredibly effective management of the transportation system.
Oh.
Which, it's just amazing to me that this guy he's like the most unqualified person ever for a job. And it's not a coincidence that the department is like, we're now going to focus on equity in transportation. And all of a sudden, nothing in the country works. And then they make a big show out of how much we're doing. Oh, yes, Pete Buttigieg was on the phone with Biden this morning discussing next steps. They're going to get everything back up and running smoothly any minute. We haven't had all the flights in the country grounded since 9/11. It took this guy being there to make this happen. Who knows why? Nobody knows any reason why yet this happened, whether it's like a cyber attack or whatever it is. But and then at the same time, I don't know if you did this story today with the train derailment yesterday.
I didn't know. I actually didn't know. Well, let me get it because it's hugely important.
There was
the one where people are stuck on there.
Yes, there was a freight train derailment, and all these people were stuck on an Amtrak train on the way to Florida for 37 hours. They were trapped on an Amtrak.
I didn't know this was 37 hours.
37 hours.
Oh my
God! They were
God.
trapped on an Amtrak train because a freight train derailed somewhere on their route, and they were stuck there. And it was like this. It was kind of. I guess it was like last night, so it sort of missed our news cycle.
There's an announcement that somebody recorded from management in the train, from the drivers or the conductors or whatever they are in the train. Hold on, this is struggling. It went. I don't know where we are anymore. Now it's
okay. Well, but anyway, so apparently some people got fed up with the situation on the train as they're trapped there for 37 hours and started to make calls to law enforcement. And it's I don't know why. I think, the fact that all the planes were grounded in the country was a distraction from the other obscenely ridiculous transportation story of the day, but it's no less entertaining than the fact that that this happened.
I gotta find
You
it.
can't find
see
it
if
again?
It didn't work, and then it flung me somewhere.
Okay, well then
Okay,
I'll-
let me try this right here. Okay, let me try this right here. It's part of the thread. It's
Okay.
It's just okay. Here we go.
So once again, for those of you that are calling the police, we are not holding you hostage. We are giving you all the information which we have. We are sorry about the inconvenience. As soon as more information is available, we will let you know shortly.
You have pretty much hit rock bottom when you've got to assure people you're not holding them hostage.
once again, for those of you calling the police, we are not holding you hostage on the train. We are stuck here with you too. We can't make the train go forward. Nice form of transportation. This is really good. Don't know why more people don't do it. Really seems great. And then, but like we say, like the department's focus has been equity and, Biden Build Back Better stuff. So why would anything work? Why would anything be good? Right. But in another case of, companies and the government and all these people doing equity stuff, did you see the Wells Fargo story?
So they've whacked somebody, right? Is that it?
No. Wells Fargo's decided to pull back from mortgage lending. They're currently the biggest mortgage lender. But they've now decided that they're going to significantly shrink their mortgage services and only make home loans to their existing bank clients and to minority borrowers.
What?
And to
Wait,
minority borrowers. Yes.
Read that again.
They're pulling back from mortgage lending. They're going to significantly shrink their mortgage services business and will only make home loans to existing bank clients and minority borrowers.
Isn't that against the law?
Yes. So the reason I found this is because a law of Ted Frank on Twitter, who's a lawyer, was saying if you're a white seeking a mortgage who's been turned down by Wells Fargo because you're not an existing customer under their new illegal racially discriminatory mortgage program and would like to see justice done, we'd like to talk to you. Because yes. And what he clarifies is that the policy apparently is not to ignore whites, but it redlines white majority communities, essentially.
Isn't that against the law?
Yes. Has been previously. I would think it's the same. I mean, I think that companies have gotten away with some of this discriminatory stuff because there haven't been white people willing to sue over the policies. But the more people do, I mean, like it seems to me to be blatantly illegal, but what do I know? So, I mean, but all these policies are just completely viciously demented and, they come from a mean-spirited place, these policies.
Yes.
They're vengeful. They're policies designed to get back at somebody.
They're absolutely punitive, yes. Mm-hmm. We are punishing you. We're singling you out for reasons that have only to do with an activist journey we're on right now.
Right. Which
is based on an issue set and passions that have become increasingly in vogue in academia and since George Floyd. So we're doing it. We're doing racism literally by doing reverse racism, and we feel noble about it. And you have to suck it up because some other people who look like you were mean in the past and did horrible things,
but
like
all
played
the
this
really
steel
smart
drum during a pot party.
But all the really smart people have decided that this is the best way to run the country, and it's clearly obvious that it's not. Here's Pete Buttigieg's tweet from after they got everything back online. FAA has determined that the safety system affected by the overnight outage is fully restored and the nationwide ground stop will be lifted effective immediately. I have directed an after-action process to determine root causes and recommend next steps.
Oh, good.
So there you go. Pete's determining the root causes.
Jim Crow.
So I definitely...
Or Jim Crow 2.0.
Yeah, I mean... and I stole this from somebody. Obviously, I retweeted a tweet today that said this, but I mean, like, it's going to be like January 6th, climate change, something like that's going to be the root cause, because that's always what it is. Because the root cause is never the obvious thing, like we're incompetent or we built a bad system or we need to fire everybody. Like, that's the root cause isn't going to be somebody screwed up.
Somebody wrote a funny joke today that is neither here nor there. It makes no sense to me. I don't think it does unless it's an inside thing or something. I'm not really sure. But the fact that the joke is made, I think, is funny. Now, this guy who made this joke may be gay himself. I don't even know. He says, gays can't even drive. How did one end up leading the Department of Transportation?
So inappropriate. Did you see Brad Palumbo replied to it, too?
Yeah. He's gay.
He's gay. And
So
he replied, not wrong, to be honest.
Is that a thing?
I didn't know that was a stereotype. So,
I don't know
but
that
I
is a
guess
stereotype.
I don't know.
I don't think I would tend to doubt it is. I would tend to doubt it. Lesbians, maybe, right? Huh?
I don't think that's true.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding.
But yeah, I don't know. And then obviously the gas stove thing. The government's like, they're just on a tear right now, the Biden administration, to be insane. I think. They're like newly empowered by their not too bad midterms. And they're all over it to screw up your life and the country as much as possible now, I feel.
Allison Corrine Shattuck.
Yeah.
Should we do the chat or do you want to do something else?
Can I tell you one more absurd story?
One more absurd story, Alice. Glad you were loaded for bear today.
The USC School of Social Work, that's the University of Southern California, has decided, they sent out the following memo a couple days ago. As we enter 2023, we would like to share a change we are making at the School of Social Work to ensure our use of inclusive language in practice. Specifically, we have decided to remove the word field from our curriculum.
Field.
And replace it with practicum. This change supports anti-racist social work practice by replacing language.
Practicum? Practicum?
Yes.
What is practicum?
So here, it'll make sense in a second. This change supports anti-racist social work practice by replacing language that could be considered anti-black or anti-immigrant. Because black people and immigrants work in the field, I guess, because that's not racist. I don't know.
Nobody else worked the fields?
I don't know. It could be considered anti-black or anti-immigrant in favor of inclusive language. Language can be powerful, and phrases such as going into the field or field work may have connotations for descendants of slavery and immigrant workers that are not benign. So instead of saying you're going to do work in the field, like go do field work, right? Like out in real life, you can say you're doing your practicum. So, important changes. It's important that we make this progress, honey, I think.
Hold on. It's Phil.
So, of course, the fact that the School of Social Work is absolutely useless and does nothing positive for the world, that doesn't matter. They're not worried about that. So this change aligns with the Council on Social Work Education, advancing anti-racism in social work education through the educational accreditation policies and standards in the 2021 National Association of Social Work's commitment to undoing racism through social work and the Eliminate Racism Ground Challenge for Social Work. So can you imagine, by the way, paying money for your kid to go to a school like this?
No, I cannot. All right, ready for the chat?
Sure.
Ready for the what else?
The Chelsea Fire Wicked Hotline chat messages.
Did you realize that at my weigh-in they contended that I gained weight?
That's very upsetting. Did you gain fat too? Or was it like water weight?
She said, well, she thinks it's almost completely water. But still, where am I getting water?
I don't know. Have you been eating enough salt?
I've been eating a lot of salt.
Okay.
I have been, there were 2 days. My birthday night and the next day where we blew it all out.
Maybe your allergic attack could be causing you to retain water.
Ooh.
Did you tell them about your allergic attack?
No, I should have. I ordered differently. We'll talk about it. This is just such an offline thing. All right, ready?
By the way, we think Tom's allergic to... Okay.
Don't say it.
Okay.
We think I'm allergic to something that you're probably not going to run into anyway.
I was just going to say maybe milk, possibly.
Yeah, kind of milk. That's correctly right. When I've had an engorged lip here, it happens after I ease her. What are you looking at?
Your son keeps calling me to ask where I am because he wants me. Hi,
Tell him.
I'm in the podcast. Our kids call this room the podcast.
All right. Ready?
Trish says to book your colonoscopy. Let's do
Ugh.
this shit. The Chelsea Fire Wicked Hotline Chat brought to you by Chelsea Fire Wicked Hot Sauce, which is a great hot sauce that is Awaken 180 compliant. It has great flavor. They use sea salt for reduced sodium, and they give 5% of the proceeds to the Fallen Firefighters Foundation. They're available at Market Basket, Big Y, and a bunch of other stores.
Hey, Tom and Alice.
Hey.
Hey.
How stupid do you have to be to rub hand soap on your face thinking it was lotion?
No.
What are you, 3? Hey, love you anyway.
You stay right
Dummy.
there. Phil Ellis.
I really thought I was going to be under attack because I could tell an attack was coming, and I was very afraid by that call that my intelligence was going to be called into question. So I'm so happy that's not what it was. I will acknowledge, and Tom has gone to go get the bottle of hand soap so that he can show those of you who are on the video why he was taken in, but I think it's pretty clearly hand soap. I just wanted a hand soap that was less drying for my little hands that are sensitive in the bathroom.
Right, you hush your little mouth.
Okay, I'm hushing.
Okay.
All right.
You have the correct camera on.
Sure, I'll switch to just you. How about that?
This
Okay.
is the hand soap we've had in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in that bathroom, I'll take out a moisturizer to use, and so there'll be a little moisturizer on that table as well, in the sink area, whatever. But this is the hand soap. Okay? That's this. Hand soap. The other day, this showed up. This does not look like hand soap. It says Jasmine Olay Hyaluronic Acid. That's all in big font.
Okay.
Cleansing and nourishing.
It says hand wash. It says hand wash. It says hand wash in bold black text at the bottom of the bottle.
Else,
Okay.
zip it. This is Olay, as in oil of, right?
Right.
It's in white. It looks just like the moisturizer, just like it. And that's why I put it on
Except
myself.
it says hand
You want
wash.
to go further than this? Look at it. There's no safeguard in this. This right here is going to burn my finger probably. It's white.
Hyaluronic acid is moisturizing. It's not acid.
This comes in a moisturizer container, contains a liquid that looks like moisturizer. These people who did this, and I can't rub this anywhere because I'm going to die. These people who did this on oil of Olay should be in jail. They should be just like the same people from McCormick's Spices who put the
Make the cayenne.
Okay, would you like to finish that for me? Thank you for your
I
help.
just know all your
The people who
rants
put
right now.
the
I know them all.
Okay.
I've heard them.
Let me know when you're finished so I can talk.
Go ahead.
Okay. The same people who make McCormick Spices who have the cayenne pepper and the paprika in the same exact square plastic packaging, they should all also be in jail. And I've made that mistake before too. I think that somebody at the grocery store should be another line of defense. Somebody at the grocery store should stop you and say, "Sir, before I ring this up, you know it's paprika, right?" There should be somebody who says that. Because I've been screwed by that before, and it's terrible. So this is how Alice set me up.
Have you considered learning to read?
Alice, I've learned to, through training through life, identify hand soap. Okay? And identify moisturizer. This is what moisturizer looks like. Everybody knows that. They're going to be sued, and I'm going to be part of a class action suit. If there's any ambulance chasing lawyer out there, this is permanently scarred my once beautiful complexion. All right.
I can't recall a time when a woman's ever told me, "You've had enough."
Yep. Well, you're not married to who I'm married to. You've had enough.
It's always me saying, "That's it. That's enough. Can't
I
go
could
for a
see
fourth time." Also,
You get it?
I'm
You
a-
hear that
I get
now?
it. Yeah.
He's already gone 3 times. That means he's very virile.
Get it.
available for a third chair on Sunday if you guys need it. I have a vast amount of things we can talk about, like my dreams that are bizarre all the time, adult film stars, anything. I have
That sounds like
a
anything.
light grasp on politics, as you can tell when I call in. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll
Morgan
see.
sent you the conditions for his rider, too, on Twitter.
Did I see it?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I said you're tagged in it. I don't know.
All right.
How long before we had that people are pushing to have the word transportation removed from the dictionary and from our vocabulary and from the AP style book?
I could see that.
Yeah.
Transportation?
Yeah. No,
Definitely potentially offensive.
it absolutely is. And also, Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation. There's a lot of problematic things there. That's like having a steel drum playing in the background of your pot news wrap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Tom and Al. So I just recalled Tom wanting all these child actors and actors dead. And it reminded me of Bluto from Animal House, the speech. And Tom's like, I want Kevin Sorbo dead. I want Ricky Schroeder dead.
Ooh.
I want Emmanuel Lewis dead.
Oh.
What the hell?
It's an interesting thing you say that, because we did lose Belushi, although I didn't ever want him dead. I was a little bit young, but he picked two conservatives, Kevin Sorbo and Ricky Schroeder, and then Emmanuel Lewis. I don't know where Emmanuel Lewis is, but he's alive, I think. Do you think that you've hit your limit on what you're allowed to say?
No. I just don't really know who any of those people are, so I don't have anything to add to that.
There's no reason to know who anybody is. God forbid.
Well, I know who some people are, just not those.
Thinking about the trans people that said that they want to seek asylum outside the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hello, Romania. Here is your chance to monopolize on Transylvania.
Ooh.
There you go.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't like it as much as I do, but I liked it. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't care. You can't tell me what to do and what to believe anymore else. Let's see if I can make this work. How do I make you work? Okay. Now, you hang on. You hang on, Alice. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Ready?
Yep.
And...
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the great Chelsea Fire Wicked Hotline chat messages, per usual, everybody. And you can join our live streams and everything like that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. I'm going to try and let the stream run a little extra this time so I don't cut you guys off. You can, of course, always find the show for free at Burn Barrel Podcast. It confuses me when you put an echo on me, okay? burnbarrelpodcast.com.